Earlier this year, the third season of Star Trek Picard was released. I'm sure most of you watching this have seen it already, but if you haven't, you can go ahead and watch it anytime you want because it's streaming on demand on Paramount Plus. For now. Anyway, Season 3 of Picard was the final season of that series, and it was made to serve as a farewell to not just Jean-Luc Picard, but to the entire cast of characters from Star Trek The Next Generation. Yes, after 35 years, it was finally time to say goodbye to the crew of the Enterprise D. Again. For you see, the last season of Star Trek Picard was not merely the final journey of the TNG gang, it was the third final journey of the TNG gang. What series has 3 finales? What show do these people think they're making? Futurama? The new season is not too shabby so far, by the way. There have indeed been 3 different finales and/or farewells to the heroes of Star Trek The Next Generation, and while the writers and the actors are on strike, and it is momentarily impossible for Terry Matalas to revive it again, I thought I would take the opportunity to, first, reiterate my support for the striking writers and actors of the WGA and SAG-AFTRA. Even people who worked on shows I didn't think were very good deserve to be fairly compensated for their work, up front and through residuals, because if the studio is making money off of a show, the people who actually made the show should be making money off of it too. It's only fair. Pay the people who make the things. And second, to look back over the 3 TNG finales and rank them from best to worst for no other reason than to start fights in the comments section, because art is subjective and opinions vary, but arguing on the internet is forever. Before we start arguing, it's important to know what we're going to be arguing about. It's not really, like I said, internet, but just go with me on this. What makes a good series finale? Like all other opinions regarding TV shows, movies, and art in general, the answer to this question depends entirely on the taste of the person answering it. But for me, there are a few key ingredients which, when present, can help to make sure a series finale is worth watching and remembering. First, natural endpoints. The ending of the series should come at a point in the lives of the characters where it makes sense that this is the end. For example, if the series is about high school students, a natural endpoint might be graduation. If an important plot in the series involved 2 characters falling in love and getting together, a natural endpoint might be their wedding. Obviously, whatever the natural endpoint for a given series is should be decided upon way ahead of time, so the series can build up to that point. Otherwise, the natural endpoint won't feel very natural. Second, closure. This can come in the sense of resolving ongoing storylines, or in a more emotional or thematic sense, or, all of those. The important thing is when the episode is over, the series should feel like it's been meaningfully resolved, not like they just decided to stop making it. Third, and related to the second one, a sense of completion while still leaving the audience wanting more. This might seem contradictory at first, but it's not. You want that feeling of resolution, that feeling that the story has been told and it's over because it should be over. You want to end on a note of fulfillment, of satisfaction, but you also want to leave the audience wishing that it wasn't over, even though they know that it is. You want to inspire the audience to miss the characters, the setting, whatever it is they like about the series. Not because they feel unsatisfied with the ending, but because they're sorry it couldn't go on forever. Not every good series finale will have all 3 of these ingredients. In fact, many won't, but most will have at least 1 or 2. And like I said, this is all just my opinion anyway. You might have your own ideas about what constitutes a good series finale, and that's great, but make your own goddamn video about it. Now, you gentle Trekkies, friends, Trekkies, patrons and members if you really love me, lend me your ears. I come to bury TNG, not to praise it. Well, also to praise it when I feel it's warranted. Which is a lot, I really like TNG, but the point is, it's dead. Probably. 3 times, Dad. 3 times have we all attended its funeral, which I think we can all agree is a bit excessive. The first time came in 1994, when Star Trek The Next Generation ended its 7-season run on TV with an episode called All Good Things. In this episode, Captain Picard finds himself slipping backward and forward through time, shifting unexpectedly from the present to 7 years in the past when he first assumed command of the Enterprise, or to 25 years in the future when he's retired and suffering from a degenerative neurological disorder. As it turns out, it's all Q's doing, but the question is why? What could Q's motives possibly be? Is he trying to destroy Picard, or help him to avoid humanity's destruction? It's quite a pickle. It's a lot to chew on. Picard ends up chewing on Q's pickle for most of the episode. The plot centers on a big scary Star Trek thing that appears in a star system near the Romulan neutral zone. Data describes it as an anti-time eruption. Picard notices through his jumping back and forth between the past, present, and future that the anti-time eruption is larger in the past. With an assist from Q, he travels about 4 billion years into the past, where the anti-time anomaly is so big that it's visible from Earth, and its effects somehow prevent the emergence of the first life forms on the planet. But then, Picard figures out what is happening. The anomaly doesn't exist in the future, is visible in the present, is larger in the past, and fills an entire sector of the galaxy in the distant past. And, in all 3 time periods he's been shifting between, Picard has had the Enterprise project a technobabble beam at the anomaly to study it. What if projecting a technobabble beam at the same point in space in 3 different time periods is what creates the anti-time eruption in the first place? So, Picard has the 3 ships in the 3 different time periods turn off their technobabble beams to stop making the anomaly larger. Then, all 3 ships move into the anomaly and do another technobabble thing to close the eruption, which works, but also destroys all 3 ships, sending Picard back to the dystopian courtroom where he first met Q back in the first episode. And Q tells him, "Congratulations, you did it! The other members of the Q Continuum were sure you'd choke on my pickle, but I knew you wouldn't." The plot is somewhat clever. Thanks to Q bouncing him back and forth between the 3 time periods, Picard is able to realize that he is actually responsible for creating the anomaly he's threatened by. But what really makes All Good Things a great episode, and make no mistake, this is a great episode, is the way it treats the characters and uses them and their relationships to make a closing statement for this series that is moving and immensely satisfying. The scenes set in the future are fun in a Silver Age DC Comics imaginary story sort of way, giving us a peek at how the various members of the Enterprise D crew are doing 25 years after the present day of the series. Because how else are we ever going to see that, right? It's not like anyone in 1994 expected these characters to be played by these same actors almost 30 years later. Ha 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 ha! So we get Old Man Picard tending his vineyard, Geordi as an apparently successful novelist, Data as a math professor at Cambridge, Worf as the governor of a Klingon colony, Crusher as the captain of the Starfleet medical ship, the USS Pasteur. Also, she and Picard have been married and divorced, but she kept the name, so she's Beverly Picard now. Riker as a cranky admiral, and Troy as a dead person. We also see the Enterprise still in service with an extra warp nacelle riveted onto the back because future. Like I said, it's fun, but there's also a point being made. The old Enterprise D crew has split up. Everyone has gone their separate ways. Only 2 of them, Riker and Crusher, are still in Starfleet. They've moved on, lived their lives. That's good. But they've also lost touch with each other. When Geordi drops in on Picard in the vineyard in the first of the future set scenes, he says it's been 9 years since they've seen each other. We get the impression that Data hasn't seen either of them in a while either. And in the case of Riker and Worf, it's not just that they've lost touch, they're bitterly estranged, with each holding on to hard feelings related to the death of Troy. They were a team, the finest crew in Starfleet, but until the plot kicks in to bring them all back together, they aren't really a part of each other's future. For the scenes that take place 7 years in the past, writers Ronald D. Moore and Brannon Braga get a lot of mileage out of both showing us things we didn't see the first time and showing us things we have seen, but subverting our expectations. Our first visit to the past takes place as Captain Picard is being taken to the Enterprise for the first time, something we've never seen, as the pilot begins at some point after Picard has taken command of the ship. Subsequent scenes from this era take place during what should be the events of Encounter at Farpoint, only this time things are different, because Picard, unlike the rest of the crew, knows the future and has shit going on in 2 other parallel time periods. The result is, we get a few nostalgic touches, like the presence of Tasha Yar and O'Brien, and Worf and Troy back in their original uniforms, but almost no repetition or recreation of scenes from the pilot episode. Instead of covering the same ground as before, the whole point of these scenes is to do things differently than they were done the first time. And, as with the future scenes, there's a deeper point being made about these characters and what they mean to each other. Picard is obviously surprised to find himself sitting next to Tasha Yar on the way to the Enterprise, since from his perspective, she's been dead for 7 years. When he shifts back to the present, we see how profoundly upsetting the experience was for him. Troy, who is with him in his quarters, asks what's wrong, and Picard, on the brink of tears, tells her, "Tasha. I was just with Tasha in the shuttle." He's taken to the past where he's reminded of a member of his crew who died. He's taken to the future where he sees that all the members of his crew have drifted apart from him and from each other. It's in this context that, in the final scene, back in the present, with everything having returned to normal, Picard drops by Riker's quarters and asks to join the poker game. After his adventures through time in this episode, and 7 years' worth of adventures as captain of the Enterprise, Picard has finally realized how important it is to cherish the time he gets to spend with his crew, because it won't last forever. All Good Things is a damn near perfect series finale. It allows TNG to end its run with a sense of closure and completion, not by wrapping up ongoing storylines, since TNG didn't really do those, but by reminding us who these characters are, especially Picard, and showing us what they mean to each other. We get one more visit from Q, who is in top form, as dark and condescending and hilarious as ever. We get a tender moment between Picard and Crusher, whose unrequited attraction to each other has been a thread throughout the series. And we get Picard no longer holding himself apart from his crew, but joining them and being welcomed by them. And as they play cards, we dissolve from a spinning overhead shot of the card table to an exterior shot of the Enterprise sailing off into the galaxy. The series is over, but for these characters, life goes on. That's the only problem with All Good Things, really. It's no fault of the episode itself, but of the broader context surrounding the episode. It's the ideal ending for TNG, but even before the episode originally aired, everybody knew it wasn't really the ending. All Good Things was first broadcast in May of 1994. 6 months later, in November of 1994, Star Trek Generations, the first of 4 films to center on the TNG characters, opened in theaters. Kinda undermines the significance of saying goodbye to Picard and the gang on TV when you know you're going to see them again before the end of the year. But it could have worked. All Good Things stands on its own as the end of TNG's existence as a TV series, and though it provides a wonderful sense of character and thematic closure, at the end of it, everybody is still alive and on the ship, so bringing everybody back for a movie right away doesn't undo that in a literal sense. All Good Things could have been the ending of the TV era, giving way to the big screen adventures of the TNG crew. Then, once the TNG film series had run its course, they could have produced an appropriate ending for that era as well, a cinematic equivalent of All Good Things, a second and truly final farewell to our beloved characters. One last mission before riding off into the sunset. A fitting conclusion, allowing the series to end on a high note, leaving the audience with sadness, no doubt. Saying goodbye to people we love, even imaginary people, is never fun, but also with feelings of satisfaction and completion. Yep, that's how it could have gone, hypothetically. Instead, well, at least they got the sadness bit right. One of the many sad things about Star Trek Nemesis, the cinematic swan song of the TNG crew, is that on paper it seems like the setup for a fantastic ending. Unlike All Good Things, which leaves the characters in the same places they've been for years, Nemesis begins with our heroes, now serving on the Enterprise E following the destruction of the D at the end of Star Trek Generations. You know, sometimes when a D gets destroyed, it's a tragedy, but sometimes... Anyway, like I was saying, when Nemesis begins, our heroes are on the verge of some pretty big changes in their lives. Riker and Troy, who rekindled their romance in the previous film, Star Trek Insurrection, get married, and after years of passing up offers of his own ship, Riker has finally accepted promotion to captain and is preparing to leave the Enterprise to take command of the USS Titan. To replace Riker as his first officer, Picard has chosen longtime Khan officer and third in command, Data. Oh, and speaking of Data, I hope you were too attached to him because he dies near the end of the movie. Spoiler alert. I should have said. Plus, it turns out the villain this time around, the new leader of the Romulans, Shinzon, is a clone of Captain Picard and a dead ringer for Picard in his younger days. So, on paper, we've got a story about getting older, about loss, about confronting and overcoming your past, about moving on with your life after getting comfortable in one place for a long time, and about saying goodbye. And it includes a couple of beats, Riker's promotion and he and Troy leaving the Enterprise, and Data's death that make excellent natural endpoints. And as I mentioned earlier, I really like those. Those are nice for a final episode to have. The pieces were there. All the ingredients necessary for an ending just as well-crafted and rewarding as All Good Things had been, but they made a flat, generic sci-fi action movie instead. There are attempts to do a TNG take on Wrath of Khan, another villain with a personal connection to the captain, another ultimate weapon, another climactic, heroic sacrifice, but it comes across like reheated leftovers. Plus, while none of the TNG movies seem to know what to do with the supporting cast, First Contact does the best with this, and it's also the best TNG movie overall. Nemesis really feels like the creators had ideas for Picard and Data and nobody else. Riker and Troy get married. Riker has a fight with Shinzon's Viceroy that just goes on and on and on. Worf has a hangover, and Geordi... Hi, Geordi. A big part of what makes Nemesis such a dud is how tedious and lifeless its action scenes are, and that's due in large part to how badly edited they are, which is kind of surprising since the director of the movie, Stuart Baird, is a legendary editor. Maybe that was the producer's big mistake, hiring Stuart Baird as the director rather than the editor. Then again, maybe they had no choice. I mean, it's not as though there were any film directors with franchise experience who could conceivably have been hired to helm the Not You. Nemesis is the worst Star Trek movie so far. But that's not to say it's all bad. It's mostly bad. It's mostly really, really bad, but Tom Hardy in his first major role tries his best to do something compelling with Shinzon and occasionally pulls it off. The immediate aftermath of Data's death works well. The stunned, numb reactions of the other characters once they realize what has happened feel raw and genuine. And the farewell between Picard and Riker as Riker is about to depart to take command of the Titan is the best scene in the whole movie. Though, as I've pointed out elsewhere, it really only works if you were already invested in the characters before you watched the movie. Nemesis itself provides no reasons to give a shit about Picard or Riker or anyone else. So, the powers that be of Star Trek The Next Generation blew past a perfect ending with All Good Things to make movies, and then when the time came to end the movies, they pissed the whole thing right down Rick Berman's leg. It's a shame. That's why I think restarting a series after it's been nicely wound up is, as a rule, a bad idea. But hey, them's the breaks. It would be nice if all our favorite TV shows or movie series got perfect, beautiful endings when the time came to shut them down, but it doesn't work that way. Hell, one of my favorite shows ever is The X-Files. And thanks to a 2-season revival a few years ago, it has also had multiple series finales and still hasn't managed to stick the landing. Hopefully they've stopped trying. I love Mulder and Scully as much as the next guy, but let them rest. At a certain point, you've just got to leave well enough alone, even if well enough isn't very good. Or, if that's not your thing, you can keep bringing the old show back as a cheap nostalgia act until it's been wrung drier than Patrick Stewart's brittle bones. I admire the man deeply. I say it with all the love in the world. Yes, perhaps the worst thing about Star Trek Nemesis being such a lousy ending for the TNG crew is that it left the door open for yet another revival. This one produced by a new generation of creators, all of whom reassured us that when the time came to do yet another series finale, this time they would do it right. Which was already done the first time, but never mind. For its first 2 seasons, Star Trek Picard was true to its title. It was a show about Jean-Luc Picard. It wasn't a very good show about Jean-Luc Picard most of the time, though season 1 had its moments here and there, but I give it credit for at least trying to do something different with a beloved legacy character. But when the time came for the show's 3rd and final season, all that let's do something different bullshit was out the window in favor of a full-on TNG revival, complete with a rebuilt Enterprise D, because why the fuck not, I guess, fueled by shameless, maudlin nostalgia, and packed with enough callbacks, Easter eggs, and cameos to make every single person watching say, "Oh hey, I remember that." Surely the highest praise to which any storyteller could ever aspire. It's apparently all Terry Matalas, showrunner for Season 3, was aiming for. The 2 episodes for which Matalas has sole writing credit are the 2 worst episodes of the season, and they also happen to be the first episode and the last episode. Matalas also directs the last episode, titled The Last Generation, and apparently his ambitions as a director of Star Trek are no higher than as a writer of it. Not only does he recreate the beginning of the TNG opening credits for an early shot, a choice that made my eyes roll so far back in my head I swear I could see my own thoughts for a second, he also lifts his final shot of the characters directly from the final shot of All Good Things. That's no mere winking reference or affectionate homage. That is the exact same shot of the exact same characters doing the exact same thing. Which is at least in keeping with the ethos of the show. There are bright spots in the middle third of the season. Episode 4 is excellent, and to his credit, Terry Matalas did co-write that one as well. But the deeper we get into the season, the more it turns away from the few somewhat original concepts it has in favor of embracing the all-too-familiar. The same characters doing the same thing could have been this season's tagline, for Christ's sake. I mean, there is a part of me that gets it. I like low-hanging fruit as much as the next guy, but after it's picked, you're only supposed to eat it once. And I get that Matalas is an inexperienced director, so maybe just flat-out stealing iconic shots from the old show is the best he could do, but Jesus Christ, if only there were established directors with franchise experience who could have directed instead of Matalas. Never you! I'm not going to sit here and tell you Season 3 of Picard was the worst Star Trek ever. That was Season 2 of Picard. Season 3 is a definite improvement on Season 2, but given the conceit of this video, the question that must be asked is it better than Star Trek Nemesis? That's really the only drama to be found here, and that's if you consider which order will the guy on YouTube rank the TNG endings to be a source of drama. And may I say, bless you if you do, you sweet, sweet things. What would I do without you? I do have an answer to that question. But it's not an easy choice from where I sit, because I think both Nemesis and Picard Season 3 are pretty goddamn terrible. For me, the decision comes down to what specifically we're comparing. Or to put it another way, what part of Picard Season 3 counts as the series finale? Is it the entire season? Or is it just the last episode? If it's the entire season, then I have to give Picard Season 3 the edge over Nemesis. Episode 4 is terrific, and there are enough not bad episodes and not bad scenes or beats in otherwise bad episodes for me to say that yes, on the whole, Picard Season 3 is better than Nemesis. On the other hand, if the series finale is only the last episode of Picard Season 3, then it's a decidedly lopsided victory for Nemesis, because even though Nemesis is a rotten movie, it's still better than the last episode of Picard Season 3, which, much like the even worse first episode of Picard Season 3, is little more than a generously budgeted, dramatic interpretation of an excited fanboy squeal. I've seen actual fan films that are more creative and less self-indulgent. It's fucking embarrassing. Those are my options. I can judge Picard Season 3 as a whole and award it second place. Award it second place like it's the fucking Olympics. It's not even a spelling bee. It's a manufactured imaginary contest based on my personal opinion. Anyway, I can do that, or I can consider only the final episode of Picard and give second place to Star Trek Nemesis. Like I said, it's not an easy choice. But choose I shall. I'm not going to do a thing where I say, oh, which one is better depends on how you look at it, for that is the coward's way. I'm also not going to flip a coin, for that is also the coward's way. The brave Rochambeau. But I'm not going to do that either. I'm going to actually make a choice. And that choice is Picard Season 3 in second place, Nemesis in third place. I know I've said otherwise in the past, but I've given it some additional consideration, and as I sit here talking into this camera, I think Picard Season 3 is a better ending for the TNG crew than Nemesis. It's a highly serialized season. It was clearly the intention of the creators that the entire 10-episode run be received as an extended victory lap / farewell to the TNG characters and that entire era of the franchise. So it's only fair to judge the season as a whole, not just the last episode, which, in case I forgot to mention it, is fucking shit. Despite the many problems I have with it, the many problems that I have mentioned here and discussed ad nauseum in other videos, Picard Season 3 boasts solid performances from its principal cast members, all of whom seem, pardon the Star Trek pun, engaged in a way they definitely do not seem in Nemesis. Picard Season 3 features good work from Patrick Stewart in the lead, Jonathan Frakes putting in some of his best work ever as Riker. Dude absolutely knocks it out of the park every at-bat. He's the highlight of the season for me. And LeVar Burton is so good as Geordi in a couple of scenes that when I watched it, I actually got mad when the episode cut away to another scene because LeVar was killing it so hard. Nemesis, by comparison, can't even muster the energy to make Picard and Data piloting an attack flyer through the corridors of a Romulan ship and blasting their way out exciting. Every time I watch the movie, I worry that the crew won't be able to get wherever they're going because it's obvious the Enterprise is running on fumes. I can't honestly say that about Picard Season 3. It devolves into an extended and exuberant session of fan wank, jizzing nostalgia all over the screen, but at least it's got spunk. So, there you go. Final ranking of the assorted endings to Star Trek TNG, according to me. Star Trek Nemesis in third place, Season 3 of Star Trek Picard in second, and way out in front in first place, the only one of the three to actually be, good. All good things. Agree? Disagree? How would you rank the 3 TNG finales? The whole point of making bullshit lists like this is to inspire conversation. So please, if you have something to contribute, take to the comments section and converse. I look forward to reading what you have to say. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and please consider supporting this channel with a monthly donation by going to patreon.com/SteveShives or by clicking the join button. And if monthly contributions aren't your thing, I'm always happy to accept one-time gifts via the thanks button or PayPal or Venmo. Links in the description. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Take care of yourselves. And I will see you next time. No!